It is Thursday, my dudes. Do you remember the It is Wednesday, my dudes, Toad?
Nope.
Welcome back, listeners, to episode 68 of the Laser Comb Podcast, your favorite show where two dudes comb through classic television with a fine-tooth laser. I am the one and only NeoCal, and I have the privilege of co-hosting with Christopher Siege.
And yeah, that's me. The man himself who no longer has a bullshit haircut, but has visited the good place himself.
Uh-oh.
I'm just gonna leave that one alone and let people take that take that however they will.
All right. Yeah. So the random episode. Well, let's back up here. The Good Place. That's what we ended up going with. And the Good Place is it's like where you go after you die if you're good, right?
Right.
How much have you
Or or
watched of the
or,
show?
or so the show has you believe in the first season, which
Yeah.
okay, so this week on the Lasercomb podcast, we are talking about The Good Place. Episode 45 overall of The Good Place, which is called A Chip Driver Mystery. It originally aired on October 31st, 2019. Spooky day.
Ooh. It's not a spooky episode though.
Oh, it's not a spooky episode at all. This is as I mentioned, episode 45 of The Good Place. This is season 4, the final season, the sixth episode of season 4. And prior to watching this, all I had seen was the first season of The Good Place, which is a show that I liked, but for one reason or another, I just kind of fell off of it. It happens.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. But it is revealed in the first season, near the end of it, that the Good Place may or may not, in fact, be the Good Place.
It may not be so good.
May not be so good. No, no.
The implication in the early on in the show, from what I remember, and folks, it's actually been several years at this point because I think when
All
I
right,
watched,
pause this if you haven't watched it. Go watch all of the Good Place and then come right back.
I think when I watched season 1 of The Good Place, there were only 2 seasons out at the time, and season 2 ended in the beginning of 2018. So, folks, it was like 5 years ago that I watched The Good Place, which holy shit, time flies.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of going by memory from the before times, and well, from what I remember, like the implication is that the good place is basically heaven, but as time goes on, you start to find out that it might actually not be as such. Cal, you're much more familiar with this show than I am, so why don't you tell people what the show is all about?
All right. As with any of the Lasercomb podcast um, episodes, like we spoil everything here, and
Yeah,
the yeah,
no, by all
anything
means,
we
yeah,
review, yeah.
yeah, don't by all means don't tap dance around it. Like,
So the first,
I don't as the listeners may not know this. I'm sure I mentioned it before, but Cal knows this. I don't care about spoilers. You can
yeah,
tell me anything about a show or a movie, and I'm like, yeah,
it
cool.
doesn't detract from his willingness to watch it.
Or my
Uh,
enjoyment of it. Yeah.
yeah, and the Good Place starts off with Eleanor. You follow this blonde around,
Played
and
by the always a joy Kirsten Dunst or Kristen Bell.
Kristen Bell, Kirsten Dunst,
Kristen,
same thing, you know.
very different actresses. No, Kristen
Yeah,
Bell. Kristen Bell has been in a lot of terrible things, but she is always funny in them.
that's the thing. She's in a lot of stuff that's not necessarily great, but she's always great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Um,
I love Kristen Bell.
and Eleanor kind of opens her eyes and she's in a room. And I think there's just a white wall and it says like, oh, relax, you're safe here, or like something like that. And a door opens and somebody greets her, and there's a white-haired gentleman in a suit uh in an office that lets her know that she's made it to the good place. And basically that they tally up all the things that you've done, both good or bad, how you spent your time, like who you helped, based on like certain things are weighted, right? Like if you have a lot of money and you do the same thing that like somebody like poor did, well, you could have done like a lot more. Or if you're poor and you like stole to like feed yourself, you know, it's all weighted like that. And she got in.
See,
And
this actually sounds more like purgatory than it does heaven.
and she got in, and now she can just, you know, like do whatever she wants. And she finds out the good place is this like small community, you know, like maybe 100 maybe or more people or whatever, and she can, you know, like do whatever she wants, and you know, like eat whatever she wants, and it's always like nice and sunny. And yeah, but for some reason she's like teamed up with can't remember how. Yeah, I think they're like assigned a partner based on like their soulmate. That's what it is. And they have a soulmate, and hers is Cheaty. And Cheaty's a big nerd, just a socially anxious, like needs to plan everything nerd, and she isn't.
He's the guy with the glasses, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And the actor's
The
name
like very.
is
I've seen
William
that.
Jackson Harper.
I've seen that guy in other things.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and boy, does he sell the because again, this is kind of following the more clever than Big Bang Theory.
Right.
uh, this is bookending that run of shows that we're doing on the Lasercomb podcast.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy, is he more of a realistic like hyper nerd than say like Sheldon or Leonard or like whatever.
Right.
And like you can't help but liking him. And eventually we kind of find out that they're not, they try to make it work, you know, they like live together and everything. And then he ends up finding out that she's actually a pretty bad person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I remember that.
she takes him aside and she's like, hey, you can't let them know that I'm in I'm not meant to be here. Because even she knows she's sussy that she's here. But the thing is, because she's narcissistic, she kind of thinks that she does belong here, or she can just wing it. So he tries to teach her because he was a what is it like an ethics or philosophical ethics um like instructor, like professor. And he tries to uh teach her the difference in like morality and ethics and good and bad, and practicing empathy and all of these. Doesn't really work. It's revealed later when Eleanor ends up finally finding out and confronting Michael, who's kind of like an angel slash like just a like an all-knowing kind of like deity. She ends up confronting him in the first season um about it being that she's actually in the bad place because everything that she does slowly makes everyone else like super frustrated or makes everything go wrong. And she's like, oh my God, like, oh, this is like hell. I'm trying to like pretend to be good, trying to pretend to be smart and know all these like artists and authors and stuff. And I'm in the bad place.
Right.
And Michael's like, huh, yeah.
Yeah. I
And
vaguely remember that revelation. Yeah.
he snaps his fingers and they run the simulation again. So sometime I think it's season one,
So
maybe season
who is
two.
Mike? Who is Michael?
So Michael is played by Ted Danson, and Michael is an entity that is running this experiment for the bad place. It's not enough to just boil them alive, to kill them over and over, like their souls, to manifest a reality where they're being tortured over and over. It's much worse on their soul to put them here and like do different like little resets where
Well,
you
I
put two people that are fundamentally opposites like together to annoy the hell out of each other and to make people like afraid and like paranoid and all of like that they shouldn't be here or whatever, to as a different kind of form of torture.
Right. I had kind of wondered actually, because as I mentioned, I have only seen the first season of this show until watching this episode. And I noticed at the beginning of the episode, Big Booty Bad Babe, who's in this like weird, like glass chamber, who was put there by Ted Danson. She refers to Ted Danson as a demon at one point. And I'm like, huh, interesting. Oh, okay.
Yep. He's the equivalent of a demon.
Yeah.
And damn it, he was good at his job. And Michael, they reset, they try a few things. Manny Jacinto plays Jason Mendoza, who is a dude who they think is a monk that's taken a vow of silence, but he's actually like he is Florida man.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe. He actually ends up being one of my favorite characters, even though his personality was grating once it was revealed.
So,
And
a big booty bad babe at the
so Janet,
beginning of this episode. Janet.
so
This is an evil version of her.
This is an evil version of Janet. But so who is Janet? Janet, played by Darcy Carden. She is like the secretary or the architect or like the AI for the good place.
That was always my kind of my takeaway, is she's something of a like supernatural like computer, basically.
She's a supernatural like computer designed so that like people can go, Janet, and Janet just appears beside them. What is it? Oh, Janet, can I have this? Oh, okay. Oh, like, well, what about like this? Oh, no, we can't do that because that might hurt someone. Oh, okay. And she is like all knowing of what can be done and like a creator, but not all, but not wise, not doesn't have the wisdom of like, say, the demons. Bad Janet is the one from hell, the like AI director, if you want to kind of call it, assistant in hell.
Okay.
And I just gotta say, Bad Janet's outfit at the beginning.
Yeah, it's the it's gonna be the episode art for this this particular podcast.
I figured, yeah.
It's gonna it I'm sure it will get many clicks on YouTube, and then people will be like disappointed and then just click away after like 30 seconds.
So I'm gonna yada yada a bunch of things. Michael ends up coming around and liking the humans.
Yeah, I definitely got that.
And it's kind of like a reverse Lucifer kind of thing where he ascends rather than him having been good and then becomes bad. And he ends up wanting to help.
He breaks
them.
good.
Breaking good, yeah. And so much so to the point where he needs to hide this from like the bad place and pretend that he's still torturing them. And then as the seasons go on, everything kind of gets like busted, and these there are a bunch of human souls, so Tahani, Eleanor, Jason, that are like, hey, in order to rehabilitate people, we need to put everyone into like the good place. And they even do like a deal with like the bad place at like one point, so there is no good or bad place anymore. Because they find out an incredibly small number of people are actually getting into the good place because the criteria is like ridiculous, and humans' way of life makes it impossible.
Right.
right? Like it's like indirectly every time we buy like a soda or something like that, we're polluting a little bit. Every time we buy like a polyester t-shirt, right? You're like that's a synthetic material. Like that's nobody's getting and nobody's gotten into heaven for like
Every
a
time,
1,000 years.
every time you buy a sneaker, a pair of sneakers over at Foot Locker, you're contributing to child labor.
Yeah, which is an immediate like uh point taking away points from you,
Yeah.
right? Um, and so they break the whole system down and kind of make end up making deals with the bad place people. And in season 4, I'm not sure exactly where they are when we watch this one because this is what is this? This is only episode 6 into season 4.
Yeah.
But what they're doing is all the main cast now know what's going on and they're playing along with it, but they're still trying to help each other. And more importantly, they're trying to help souls that don't know that they're not supposed to be in the good place
Right.
actually become better people. And that's what brings us to this episode. What the hell is this dude's name? The fucking like writer. Uh
Wasn't it Brent?
Brent. Yeah, let's just call him Brent. Um wow, he's just the worst.
So, to kick off, like recapping this episode. So the episode
Yeah.
opens in a big white void, and there is this like glass, like what is it, hexagonal
It's a
chamber.
hexagonal glass chamber in a white void that's kind of like a holding cell for Bad Janet.
Yeah, for Bad Janet. Ted Danson shows up, and he's like, basically, well, I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna be like face your punishment. You're gonna be obliterated pretty much. But first, I'm gonna tell you a story, and the rest of the episode unfolds like a clip show, which I found amusing because this clearly isn't a clip show.
Oh, it's not a clip show. It's kind of
But
the show's
it,
pacing is interesting because sometimes it wants to move the plot along, so it does so in clips like this.
in its presentation, like it feels like a clip show. Like
Yeah,
in
because
most
he's telling Bad Janet about what happened.
yeah, in most sitcoms, like a character will usually, like in some like contrived circumstances, a character will go to another character and start talking about things that have happened, and you start getting clips from like previous episodes that you've already seen. So
Yeah,
this is structured like that, but it's not a clip show because this is all stuff that we haven't seen, and I picked up on that pretty
yeah.
quickly.
Even you picked up on that, and every once in a while, Bad Janet will be like, "Oh, why are you telling me this? Like, I don't care. All
Yeah.
humans are bad, which is why they all go to the bad place." Have you seen them? They're down there like there are moms with $400 yoga pants that won't get their kids vaccinated.
I That made me laugh.
I remembered that and that made me laugh. And this came out in oh yeah, I forgot to mention
This was
that.
before COVID.
Like long before and long before anti-vaxxer became like common parlance.
Oh no,
So
no, no. Anti like vaccines cause autism has been a thing for like 20 years.
oh, it's been around for a long time, but the it wasn't a very common topic of conversation like it kind of became during the
I,
pandemic.
during the 2010s, encountered tons of
Really?
people who, like parents who were like against vaccinating their children.
I never met a single one
I
or
met
even
tons
heard
of them.
about them until wow.
Tons of
Wow.
them.
It, you're from a different place than than I am, admittedly. Some conservative values, perhaps, where where you're from. Oddly, even though it's like not even that geographically far away.
Well, it's also my ex-wife too, and like her,
Their fam,
my
right?
former in-laws and like their friends. So and like even like even I remember like a cop show that hasn't aged well, The Shield,
Mm-hmm.
from like 20 years ago. Like vaccines cause autism was a plot point in that show. And the show was just like, yes, they absolutely do cause autism.
Oh, Right. You had mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah, that show is very conservative, like going back to it, very like pro-conservative, like right-wing
Damn.
ideas.
And
Still compelling, but I am not on board with it. The things it
know
has to
what you're
say
getting
anymore.
into
Yeah,
when you go and watch The Shield.
know what you're getting into. But yeah, the whole the whole like even long before COVID, the whole like anti-vax thing was pretty pretty widespread.
So it wasn't just like kooks out in the middle of nowhere. You had met several
Well,
of
yeah,
them.
and if you remember in the 2016 Donald Trump election, that was a big one of his big talking points.
Man, I've blocked all of that out of my memory. What? Who? Donald Trump? I
I uh,
never heard of her.
I had a I had her on as a friend on Facebook for years. I'm not going to say her name, but she used to be a neighbor of my mom's, and honestly, the only reason why I chatted with her was because I thought she was kind of a milf, and like by milf, like I think she was like naughty, like she was maybe like 6 or 7 years older than I was at the time. Um,
But she smoked, so she looked older.
Not really, no. No, and apparently she used to be a stripper too, like when she was younger, but then like got and like did drugs and all of that, got out of that, like had a couple of kids and then became like a hardcore Christian, which I'm like, "Oh, that's disappointing."
She found Jesus.
She found Jesus, but throughout the 2010s, she would periodically send me because she ended up moving to Victoria just as I did. She was sending me would frequently send me like invites for like March Against Monsanto like rallies and like anti anti like
GMO
anti-vaccine
and
and
anti-VA.
anti-vaccine like rallies and things like that. And I was always like, why the fuck would you think that I would be on board with this? And
Yeah,
she's
I had an uncle that invited me to like a trucker convoy, like fuck Trudeau conspiracy, like Facebook group. I accepted so I could get behind enemy lines. I had shared with you at the time some of the fucking wild posts
Yeah, I
that
remember that was
came
a
out of
while
that
back now,
place.
but I remember that.
Felt like James Bond. Yes, that's right. It's all a
um,
conspiracy.
mm, yes, conspiracy, vaccines, autism,
Oh, oh, look out! The autism. Get your kids. It's what the libtards want. Oh, uh, so yeah,
Sometimes, vaccines find a way
find a way.
into your children. We need to uh, uh, how would you say it? Think of the children. Yes, think of the children.
And well, there it is.
Well, there it is. That was a weird tangent. Anyway, back to the episode. Um, yeah, so Ted Danson starts telling her about this group of human characters who go on like this skiing trip,
They
and
go to a ski trip. Yeah,
the exercise is to like try and get them to bond or something. It's
get them
kind
to
of
bond, become a better person through like putting them through diversity. It's basically like diversity training in like heaven or whatever. And specifically it seems for one particular dude.
Becoming better humans through like camaraderie and empathy.
And here's the thing, this is a trial run that they're doing.
Yeah.
They can't tell the humans that they they're on a trial run to get into the good place, because if they know that, then they'll just pretend to be good.
Right.
So they want to prove the angels and demons and everything that humans can change on their own when they're nurtured properly.
Right.
If like right, like if they're racist, like show them different like faces, different like cultures, different like people. If they're sexist, like have them like talk to like what like just it's very patient approach.
One of the members of this group is this like boomer, like pushing 60, like kind of like douchey, misogynistic dude named
Probably had a
Brent.
heart attack from stress
Yeah.
as the way that it killed him. Yeah. And
Uh,
yeah, he's bragging about something about from the ski trip. Oh, no, he lost a game of Romoli.
okay. There's
Yeah.
this big subplot in the episode with involving him. He wrote a book.
Oh my god.
He wrote a book,
Oh,
and
you know
the
what's funny?
name.
We were talking about espionage thrillers.
Yes, we were on the Patreon exclusive show, the Super Lasercomb Patreon Super Show, which you can get access to by going to patreon.com/lasercomb, LAZORCOMB. $5, people.
$5, and you can listen to us talk about. I was gonna say Dick Tracy. No, we're not going that far back. Tom Clancy.
Yep. I'd be down with doing a commentary on Patreon for Dick Tracy.
Oh,
That
that'd be
movie's
cool.
that movie's great. It holds up quite well. So yeah, so the book that this guy Brent or Brett, I don't know. I'm just gonna call him Brent.
Yeah.
Uh, his the book that he wrote was called A Chip Driver Mystery. And so it's this big like tome of a book, and he wants everyone to read it and give
He
them.
has like a book um announcing like ceremony type
Yeah,
thing. And what is it? He wants someone else to like announce him as like a hype
yeah.
woman.
So like all of the people in this group end up reading his book, and one like it's he mentions it's like and I can't remember the specifics, but he's like, oh, it's part murder, it's 50% murder mystery. It's like it's like half murder mystery, half political thriller. It's like half romance novel and like half Twilight. It's half like blah blah, half golf tutorial. And one
Yes.
of the characters comments so that it's
That's like
comments
3.5 books.
that's like three and a
And
half
Brent's
books in
like,
one,
at least.
and he's like, yeah, at least. And so they read the book, and like the prose is they joke that they're gonna like read the book out loud to one another as like a big like joke, and like the
Yeah, I
pro.
can't remember the other lady's name because she's like a new addition, but what was it? It was Tahani, right? Tahani is like, oh, do you want to like open a bottle of wine and like spend an evening or two like reading this out loud to each other to like make fun of it?
Yeah, and so they when they're reading the book, like the prose is just comically bad.
Oh, it gives an example
Yeah, yeah.
of something that's problematic, and they very quickly find out
Even be
that this
like
isn't
before,
even a bad book. This is
but before we get to like the problematic stuff and like the fact
right,
that he's writing he's basically he's writing like caricatures of the
right.
people that he knows
They're
and using
caricatures of the main cast in his
using it
book,
using it as an avenue to basically mock all the people around him.
and
Uh
talk about how perfect. And it's a self insert where he's
totally. Yeah.
yeah, he's Chip Driver,
Yeah.
or whatever the fucking character's name is,
Chip
and he's like
Driver.
perfect, and like white and likes cigars and like martinis and
And they comment about how they about how it's supposed to be like a murder mystery, but he solves the mystery on like page 10. And they bring this up with him, and he's like, "Yeah, world's greatest detective."
yeah.
Just doesn't
How far have
understand
you
that.
read? He solves the mystery on like page 10. He's the best.
Yeah, doesn't even pick up on the fact that like why that is so like stupid.
It cuts back to Michael and Janet every once in a while, and Janet's whole point is like, hey, no, like they're bad, why are you trying to help them? Like, they should all be in the bad place, so you should just like let me out and we should go back to like torturing them. And like
And
he
Ted,
said, she calls him a demon at one point.
yeah, and Ted Danson, like his thing is basically that like he has faith in people, like he believes people can change. essentially. And that actually pays off at the end of the episode in a way that I really liked.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He has faith in people, they're imperfect, but like they can be good.
Yeah.
And the message for all of the great plays is that maybe becoming a good person takes work and
And
isn't easy.
well, and kind of the overall like message of the episode and what like Ted Danson tries to convey is that no one's perfect, no one is inherently good, and like
No one's inherently good or perfect.
what is important is that you just keep trying to be better, which is a great message and one something that I like as I get older, like I really
Hell, we were talking about that
we
earlier.
were, yeah, yeah, on the Super Lasercomb Patreon Super Show. But yeah, as I get older, that's kind of a mantra that I'm, or like a mindset that I'm growing more and more fond of. It's like it's not. No one has to be perfect. No one has to be amazing. No one is amazing. No one is perfect. No one is great 100% of the time. But it's just important that you're trying to be better,
Yeah, yeah,
and that's kind of like the crux of the episode here.
yeah. And basically they cannot let the book opening happen. So they have to confront this guy.
Ted Danson takes Brent on a couple of golf trips, and what is it that he says to him?
Go ahead.
He's
Because
like,
Brent, they turn off the like auto aim controls for the golf game.
right,
And Brent, again, like a learned narcissist. I can't remember the difference between behavioral and personality, but behavioral. But like they turn it off and Brent like misses terribly his
right,
uh his drive. And he's like, "Oh, you sneezed." And he's like, "No, I didn't. I can't even sneeze." And he's like, "Well, somebody did." He's like, "Brent, there's no one else here.
yeah.
Nobody sneezed." Oh,
And
well,
what is the line he says? He's like, oh, as like some like golfer always said, uh, your best
your
shot
best shot is the next one.
is the next one. Yeah, I really liked that line.
And then Brent, he's just like, "Oh yeah, well, never heard of him." Like, and then he quotes a different golf quote, something just like as a quip back. And
And it basically amounts to him just saying "suck it," pretty
just
much.
yes, suck this, and he drives it, and it sucks again. And he's like, "Brent, sometimes you just make bad shots. You don't have to be perfect. Nobody's like judging you, and it's not anyone else's fault."
Yeah,
And this hit me in a deep way because, man, in my like late teens and early 20s, I was just like that. Everything that I did wrong, I couldn't take responsibility for anything I did. It was always someone else's fault, or something stopped me from doing what I was supposed to do. It was excuses.
right.
But like, it's stronger to just admit when something's your fault. And he's trying to kind of like gently push him in that direction, because he's like, "See, it's fine. You screwed up your shot, and well, if you can apply this." And then he gets him to admit it. He's like, "Fine, I guess I just effed it up. Whatever." And he's like, "Oh, it feels good. And if you want to apply that to other avenues of your life,
Yeah.
I, like and then Brent's like, "What are you talking about?" "Oh, nothing."
And while this has been going on, we've also been cutting back to like this, what looks like an office. Kristen Bell is in charge now, I guess.
So she's pretending, because Michael's had a shot at it, and him not being human, kind of hard to relate. She's pretending to be the angel in charge of the good place right now.
Okay.
They're all working together. Jason, Tahani, Chidi, Eleanor, Michael. They're all working together, but she's pretending she's like the angel, right? And so whenever someone's like, I can't remember who it was, but they're like, "No, I don't forgive him. He's racist. He's like sexist. No, I'm
Yeah.
not going to give him a chance."
Well,
And they're
and
like, well, what are the great texts? What are the gods like say? And she's like, let me go and speak with the entities that created the universe and the energies, and I'll get back to you on that. And all she's really doing is hanging out in like an office, like talking to the other main cast members, being like, I don't know what to like tell them. He's irredeemable. He's terrible.
And there's a bit of a ticking clock here too, apparently, because Ted Danson mentions that the experiment is like half over at this point, and like they got to stop like messing around and really get Brent to like redeem himself, like to get it through his head that he needs to redeem himself.
He's the last person in this experiment who hasn't, but like everyone else has like become better over like time, because they'll like reset it and try again. And
Yeah,
subconsciously, a person's soul will get better, even though they don't remember their memories being reset. But not
right.
this guy. This guy's just a fucking prick like every single time, no matter what happens. And so it's
So
all
the
reliant on this fucking dude coming around.
the book signing happens, and he is like, all the main cast show up, and he's like asking them for what is it, what does he call it, compliments.
Fuck. Come
he he
on, lay on the
he,
complos.
he
Tell me what you
wants he
thought.
wants
And they're like,
compliments.
complos? And he's like, yeah, compliments, bro. Oh, another thing about him is that he's constantly trying to act and sound and like look younger than he really is.
Yeah,
And he ends up just being really, really cringy.
yeah, complos. Come on, guys,
Complos.
complos. And
And they can't
what
lie.
the British chick
Yeah.
tries at first, being like, well, there was some very, interesting use of language in it, and the main
It
girl, the one,
it's
or
unpredictable. I,
the woman who, the one who was like, no, I don't forgive him, like he's a racist piece of shit,
yeah.
she speaks up and is like, okay, I can't, like it's racist,
Yeah.
it's misogynistic, like it's like just poorly written. And
We're all clearly like put in this, and how you actually view us is like
yeah,
obvious in the books, and like go to hell.
yeah. And so he turns it around, and he does this very like, you see it on the internet all the time, from like, especially from like boomers, or
I
like
knew you
in
would like
in
this.
incel types or whatever. Like he goes on the defensive, and he's like, oh, like you're discriminating against me, like why are you attacking me, like I've done nothing. You know what, I think you're being kind of racist and sexist toward me. Like,
Oh man, this fucking guy. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
this fucking guy. I
right.
was
And
like,
yeah,
holy shit.
if anything, you should be glad that I put so many people of color. He probably uses worse phrases than this. One thing in here, people can't say bitch, they say like bench. There's like an auto filter, and they say
Yeah,
fork instead of fuck.
yeah.
so, so you'll be like, oh yeah, quit acting like a bench,
And
or something like that.
the guy with the glasses, whose name I can't
Cheaty.
remember,
Yeah.
JD.
Cheaty.
Oh, Chidi. So
Yeah.
Chidi, earlier in the episode, after they had been reading the book, like he started getting self-conscious about the like, about being like really predictable, and like having to like plan ahead.
Anxious and needing to plan everything. And yeah.
So he asks the I guess like the like music guy.
Jason, who's pretending to be a monk, but is actually like a DJ from Florida.
Yeah. He asks him for advice on how to like be spontaneous and whatnot, and yada yada yada.
And
So
he's like, oh, great idea. We should make a list of 10 things that we could do spontaneously right now, and then systematically go through that list and come up with the best answer. I
it's
I
just
really
funny.
like that.
Yeah, yeah, doing the opposite of spontaneity.
And
Um,
Jason's like, no, just get up and dance. And they start dancing. Oh, that fucking B plot.
so Cheaty, that's what you said his name
Yeah.
was? Cheaty. So
Chidi. Yeah.
so Chidi, at the book signing after Brent is just going off and on, like on and on and on about how he's being like discriminated against, and like people are being like attacking him, and like how he's such a great person because he's in the good place, and like they're all the bad people. Chidi like confronts him, and if it does something spontaneous in that he like clocks him like right in the face.
He, like any like red-blooded human, um, Brent goes on to say like way too much like bullshit and into the realm of like accusing, like, I know you are, but what am I? Like, oh, actually, I'm not racist because I'm writing about these things. You're racist for
Yeah.
calling me like racist. And he says he goes too far because uh again, been years, folks. I think Chidi is partners with that British lady,
Oh,
or it
okay.
kind of seems like, or he's just a good guy and he's defending her. I couldn't quite recall.
Yeah,
And
he referred to her as like something like uh really like he referred to her as like the posh Persian or something like that in the
oh,
book.
Tahani, yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah.
Fuck. Yeah. Um and
Oh, right.
yeah.
There's two. Well, there's the British one,
There's the
and then
British one. Sorry, I kept getting,
isn't the other lady Australian?
she's Australian, not,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Okay,
I,
so I yeah.
a colonial accent. She's the one that has a problem with, well, they all do. But the
They all
thing
do,
is,
but
Tahani,
she's
Eleanor, Jason, and Chidi have been through this over and over and over, and they're trying to, they know what's happening. Whereas, I, again, can't remember her character, the Australian chick, I think, yeah, she doesn't know like what's going on, right?
well, yeah, and she also like yeah, she just isn't willing to like put up with the guy's bullshit anymore.
But yeah, he goes too far. He like pushes Chidi or something like that, and he just decks him.
Yeah. Fork you.
He decks him. He goes flying backwards, and like comically breaks a table, like it's the WWE, and like
Yeah.
golf balls go flying everywhere and fall on him. I can't remember how that was a positive thing or what like Brent rem- came
Uh,
away with that with.
Ted Danson finally like goes up to him and was like, he was like, okay, dude, like I've tried, but like we've run out of time. You screwed up. You need to apologize. And like,
And at first he's like, "What? I'm the one that was like attacked, and it was my, yeah."
but then the apology that he gives is very much like, I'm sorry you were offended.
Yeah,
It's like,
that's
and
not an apology.
the Australian chick is like that. Yeah, that's a non-apology right there.
Have you gotten that? I've gotten that from actual narcissists.
I have, yeah, yeah,
Jim, you know who
100%.
you are, you piece of shit. That's not how
Uh,
you fucking apologize, loser.
one of my exes, you know the one.
Yeah.
When I worked at Blockbuster, that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was
Yeah.
very much a I'm sorry that you were offended kind of person. I'm sure
Yeah.
she
Or
still
I'm
is too.
sorry that you felt like I, yeah,
That I'm sorry that
help.
you felt like I was out of line, but let me tell you, that's actually I actually wasn't out of line, and I think you're just being oversensitive.
Ooh.
Those were how arguments with her were usually would usually go down.
Yeah. And does he apologize normally or
The the
not?
the word of the day, folks, is gaslighting.
Uh-huh. You said the word. Ah! Um, well, never thought I'd do a Pee Wee's what was that show?
Pee Wee's
Uh
Playhouse.
Pee Wee's Playhouse reference today, but here we are. People are capable of change even though it might be like slow going, or they have to make mistakes, or they have to get punched in the face.
Between this and the Patreon stuff that we recorded before this, we've been very real today.
I know, real fucking talk, folks. Um, yeah, if you want to hear more real talk, like I said, it's like $5. Helps us helps us keep the light on for the streaming service you might be listening to this
Yeah,
on.
keeps the lights on over at Lasercomb HQ.
And plus, we do comment. We'll get into that at the end of this if you're still around. But yeah, to wrap the episode summary up, it goes back to Michael and Bad Janet.
Yep.
And Bad Janet's like, okay, so like I guess like people can change, but it doesn't make them good. They're just shittier in like nicer ways.
And so Ted Danson is like, okay, well, that's the story. It's over now. And she's like, okay, well,
Well, guess
all
it's
right.
time to die, or I
I guess
guess you're
it's time to
gonna.
die. And he's like, I'm not going to do that. And she's like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm
I could lock
actually,
you here forever in some like purgatory, but I've decided to let you go.
and I'm letting you go because I believe that people can change and people deserve second chances.
And then she kind of is like, okay. And then very shady, like somebody that's like being like a police officer being like, you can go,
And
right?
he's like, but I have a gift for you. And he has a book. And she sounds all excited. She's like, oh, is that Brent's book? Like she actually wanted to read it.
Right.
uh,
But no, it is. Oh, she's like, oh, sorry, I didn't have $20 in cash on me. So I could
65.
$65
Yeah.
in cash. I like that in cash, right?
Oh, and earlier at the signing too, when Brent mentions that the book is $65, uh, Michael is like, "There's no money here."
Yeah. So I couldn't get hold of one of his books, but something better. What I
It was
just watched it.
I
What
think it
was
was a log book of like all of the experiments that him and the good Janet have been like doing. It was like
right,
it was basically like their like research that they've like accumulated.
right.
And he gives it to her in the hopes that she'll study it and it will maybe may help her become a uh, better individual. And she makes a
And
joke.
she's
She's
like,
like, "Yeah,
yeah, just like everyone that gets a book is a gift. I'm gonna definitely read this.
uh,
And then she kind of like nervously like starts to walk out and then like runs over to the door and flees.
yeah,
I just realized this now. Him telling her all of this and like keeping her in here or whatever is kind of her way of it's kind of like her
it's kind of her good
rehabilitation.
place. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I just realized that through talking through this. It's actually kind of which is clever. Again, TV shows that are actually more clever than Big Bang Theory.
yeah.
Uh highly but before we get into what may be obvious to what my rating is going to be, I have to ask, Christopher, you just watched a random episode of The Good Place. Would you tune in next week?
I would. I was a little lost when I was watching this. Kind of comes with the territory. This show is quite serialized.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm gonna jump back into it. I might just start season one all over again since it was like I mentioned like 5 years ago that I watched it now, and
yeah,
just go from the beginning. It's all on Netflix, people. Check the
yeah.
show out.
And yeah, I'm a big fan of this show. This reminds me of how good it is, and yeah, I might go back and rewatch from the beginning as well. And you know what? The whole thing is written with like an ending in mind, and I it's got a lot of very interesting philosophical concepts, but a lot of heart. So highly recommend. Also, it's just amusing to think of Ted Danson as being a demon.
You know, there's a Twitter account. It's controlled by a bot. And I don't use Twitter anymore, but I always found this account really funny. It's is today the name of the account is today Ted Danson's birthday, and it will auto tweet whether it is Ted Danson's birthday or not. and it will be, and every day it's like, today is not, it will just tweet, today is not Ted Danson's birthday. Today is not Ted Danson's birthday. Today is not Ted Danson's birthday. And I think his birthday is like December 29th or something. So when his birthday, the one day a year his birthday actually comes around, it's like, today is Ted Danson's birthday.
So fucking
Right.
random.
Right? It's an old account back in the days when Twitter was actually like kind of fun and interesting.
Yeah.
Or
And
like
bots weren't just like political like retweeting accounts.
or like from the same era of like the Willie Shakes
Yeah.
account, where it's like just a bot that tweets like every like line of the works of William Shakespeare, one line at a time.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, still going too. I think it's on like round eight or nine at this point.
Damn.
Yeah, it'll just tweet a line of the works of William Shakespeare in order, like once an hour.
Amazing.
Amazing.
You know what
So
else is amazing?
The Good Place, the Laser
Our
Patreon.
patron. That's right.
Yeah, if you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/lazorcomb, LAZORCOMB. We're at the $5 Gary tier. You get access to the Patreon exclusive podcast, the Super Lasercomb Patreon Super Show. We kind of weren't we kind of weren't regular as on a regular schedule as we could have been for a little while there at that, but we're kind of getting back on track with that. And you also get commentary tracks, and you get to interact with us on a, well, me anyway, because I run the Patreon. You get to interact with me, folks, and then
I'm on the Discord. Damn it!
And then I'll send screenshots to Cal.
That's right.
And you also get the opportunity to pick a random episode or a show for us to review a random episode of on this very podcast, and a bunch of other like random content.
Commentary tracks for movies.
Commentary tracks for movies. I did mention that, folks. I'm very tired. I've been.
Can you tell that we're both?
I've been. At the time of recording, it is now past 7:30 p.m. and I've been awake since 4 a.m. because I had to get up for work. So
time for us to hit the hay.
Yeah, so I'm getting tired. But anyway, so if you want to get in on that, go to patreon.com/lasercomb. You can follow me on Instagram. I am at Christopher Siege. You can also follow me on Threads, an Instagram app, at the same handle, at Christopher Siege. Cal, where can people find you?
You can follow me on Threads, an Instagram app. What the hell is my Kalhalla? Right, that's it. KALHALLA. Or TikTok, NeoKal. NeoKal. That's right. I have several TikToks.
But
also
back.
Mostly the Discord. If you want to come and bug me.
Yeah, there's a link in the description.
Or hell, you want to say something bad? YouTube comments. That's where they belong.
Right. That's where people talk about my bullshit haircut. We'll be back next time, which at the time of recording, it could be tomorrow. Could be 2 weeks from now. Who knows? It won't be any longer than 2 weeks, though.
Jeremy, bear me. Does it even matter?
We'll be back next time with episode 69 of the Lasercomb podcast. And we came up with the idea several episodes ago now that for episode 69, we needed to cover a very sexy show. And me and Cal were on the same page, because when he pitched this show to me, he couldn't remember the name of it, and I'm like, Red Shoe Diaries. It's exactly what I was thinking too. So on the next episode of the Lasercomb podcast, 69, we're going to be covering the Red Shoe Diaries.
That's right. It's happening.
Which is a very steamy
Remember that show you stayed? This is how I pitched it to him. Remember that show where would like air at like 11 p.m. or like midnight, and you'd stay up to like watch it on Showcase. And before I even finished the sentence, Christopher was like, "Oh, Red Shoe Diaries," and I was like, "Yes,
So yeah, we're gonna be talking about the Red Shoe Diaries. So to figure out what I'm gonna hit screen share because that's actually been working again as of late. Uh, yeah, here we go. Screen share. So Red Shoe Diaries had 66
Oh, so
episodes.
close.
So close to nice to achieving nice status. So one random number is between 1 and 66, and here we go. 57. Okay. What's that? That is in the final season, season 5. Episode 5, Strip Poker. A photographer joins a game of strip poker.
Oh my.
The cast seem to all be people with like Russian names. Huh. Okay.
Hmm.
Interesting. All right. Well, we'll be back on the next Lasercomb podcast with that. And until then, I've been the Siege, one of your hosts.
And I'm NeoCal.
And until next time, thanks for listening. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.